This is Gregory Majewski of Oakdale, Connecticut. You're listening to International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, May the 25th. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Jill, and we thank you for joining us. We have our usual 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio for you. We'll give you all our contact information at the end of the show. And if you have anything to contribute, we'd love to hear from you and any comments about the show as well. So we'll give you the contact info at the end. We have quite a bit of information, so we'll get started right away. And Gilles, you've got a local story to start things off with today.
Yes, once again, 98.5 FM local station in Montreal seems to always deal in controversies. So one of the popular shows that has the hosts Luc Ferrandez and Nathalie Normandeau started talking about a little story. We had a story about a mentally challenged, handicapped person that ended up in a bad situation for stealing food at a grocery store, and she was put in jail where she should not have been. She should have been, taken over by social services for help. It actually was talked about on the show, but Luc Ferrandez made a comment that a lot of associations for handicapped people kind of just jumped on. They said, whoa, what did you just say on the radio? He kind of hinted that these type of persons should be put away. And he didn't mention the word, we should help them to die, because we have here in Quebec the assisted dying law, where if you're really suffer, or you have too much troubles, in health problems, you can ask to end your life. And so he kind of hinted, well, people like that should maybe use that service, which was completely dumb to say. And so the associations just jumped on it and say, what did you say? This is unacceptable. We're going to start deciding who dies because of their handicap or because they're mentally challenged? How dumb can you be? So it's a little controversy that goes on. They haven't taken the people out of the air because he rapidly, said, I'm sorry, I said things I shouldn't have said. You got to be careful what you say on the air. Come on. You don't say things like that. This is kind of unacceptable here.
Yeah, this station has had a bit of a history with this sort of thing. We've had some stories in the past on the show of controversy, people getting into subject matter that they shouldn't get into on the radio. This one is, this is going way beyond. And You would think that, these are experienced people. They should be thinking twice about what they say on the radio. I'm really quite surprised that they're still on the air, that they haven't pulled them off the air, at least for, a suspension or something like that. We maybe haven't heard the end of it. I'm sure there's still some controversy going on, and some looking at it from the inside at the station to see what they do. But probably this will probably happen again with the station. I don't know what it is, but they just seem to speak before they think sometimes. Moving on, we have a story from Radio Inc. by Cameron Coates. It's a study that shows that 91% of drivers rely on local radio for breaking news. As dashboards become increasingly digital, a new wave of research from Odyssey's Connected Car Study underscores the importance of the legislative efforts to keep radio in vehicles, showing just how central radio still is for real-time trusted information. Spanning data through 2024, the study shows that among drivers surveyed, 91% rely on local radio for breaking weather news, narrowly outpacing mobile apps at 90% and well ahead of social media at 83%. Similar margins apply for traffic, 90%, and local news, 89%, with radio maintaining a lead that reflects both its immediacy and the community trust it continues to earn. 2/3 of U.S. drivers still listen to AM/FM stations while driving, the study finds, and 44% are now using audio apps to stream live radio in the car. That portability is increasingly important. Among tech-savvy drivers open to new in-car AI features, 73% say continuing to listen to the radio between home and car is essential. But access to that trusted service is increasingly being buried or removed altogether. According to QUU's 2025 in-vehicle visual report, only 26% of new vehicles offer a dedicated radio button, a sharp drop from 36% a year before, even as Odyssey finds 3 in 4 drivers preferring simple interfaces over elaborate screen features. This shrinking visibility coincides with moves from manufacturers like Slate Auto, which plans to eliminate AM and FM radio entirely from its upcoming electric vehicle models. That decision, pitched as a cost-saving measure, has alarmed emergency preparedness advocates and broadcasters, who warn that millions of Americans, especially in rural and disaster-prone regions, could lose access to a critical lifeline. Meanwhile, the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act continues to gain traction in Congress, with more than 20 U.S. House members joining as co-sponsors in May. The Senate version already holds a filibuster-proof majority, setting the stage for potential summer action. Odyssey Senior Director of Research and Insights Reggie Shaw said that the findings reaffirm the power of radio in a shifting media environment. As tech-forward cars evolve, audio will become more personalized, predictive, and accessible. However, the value of local radio as a trusted source of information and entertainment remains constant. It's still the best in the passenger seat. You know, we're seeing in the news lately cutting back on certain weather advisory notices from NOAA and things like that. If somebody's just got a simple radio in the car, if there's dangerous weather patterns around you or something, chances are that information is going to get to you over the radio before any other way. So I think it's really encouraging to see that so many people are supporting keeping the radios on board the cars. We'll have to see what sort of fight the manufacturers put up. If the law gets passed, I guess they won't have much of a choice, but I guess it's not quite there yet. We're still waiting for that final approval.
In our next story, we have the European Union will provide emergency funds to help keep Radio Free Europe afloat after U.S. cuts. This is Associated Press via Mike Cooper in Glenn Hauser's World of Radio I.O. group. The European Union agreed Tuesday to provide emergency funds to help keep Radio Free Europe afloat after the Trump administration stopped grants to the pro-democracy media outlet, accusing it of promoting a news agenda with a liberal bias. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, started broadcasting during the Cold War. Its programs are aired in 27 languages in 23 countries across Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Its lawyers have been fighting the administration in court. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the bloc's foreign minister had agreed to a 5.5 million euros contract to support the vital work of Radio Free Europe. The short-term emergency funding is a safety net for independent journalism, she said. Kallas said the EU would not be able to fill the organization's funding gap around the world, but that it can help the broadcaster to work and function in those countries that are in our neighborhood and that are very much dependent on news coming from outside. She said that she hoped the 27 EU member countries would also provide more funds to help Radio Free Europe longer term. Kallas said the bloc has been looking for strategic areas where it can help as the United States cuts foreign aid. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's corporate headquarters are in Washington, and its journalistic headquarters are based in the Czech Republic, which has been leading the EU drive to find funds. Last month, a U.S. federal judge ordered the Trump administration to restore $12 million that was appropriated by Congress. Lawyers for the service, which had been operating for 75 years, said it would be forced to shut down in June without the money. In March, Kasulis recalled the influence that the network had on her as she was growing up in Estonia, which was part of the Soviet Union. Coming from the other side of the Iron Curtain, actually it was from the radio that we got a lot of information, she said. So it has been a beacon of democracy, very valued in this regard. So this is good news. At least there is some funding going on to help the programming continue, as we are in need of this type of programming still today. And hopefully it can continue.
Yeah, this will keep it going for a little while, but as they say, it's basically just to keep them alive for the time being. But I don't know how long simply the EU will be able to continue this. So I guess they're really hoping that there is some change out of the US government that will allow services like this to continue. That's just an ongoing story. As you know, if you've been listening to the show, we've been covering the pressure that's been put on services like these overseas broadcasts. Some things have changed, a few things have come back, but others we really don't know where they're headed. So it was good to see the European Union step in, at least for the time being, to keep it going.
So what's happening with our son? Well, our son is rather quiet, but what is creating some minor G1 class geomagnetic storms is a huge coronal hole. There's some solar wind and solar gusts that are coming through, and this actually has been creating some unsettled conditions at times. There is the possibility that this weekend we can have a little bit of disturbances once again. There's a lot of little sunspots on the sun, but most of them are quiet. None pose any threats for some solar flares. So in the week ahead, unless things change drastically, we might find some interesting conditions. Sunspot number is 99. The solar flux is 120. And for the conditions on your radio, well, you know what? You got to do like I do almost every day. Turn on a radio and listen.
This is Peter Laws in Norman, Oklahoma. On the air since 1987, you're tuned to the International Radio Report, 30 minutes of radio about radio, every Sunday morning on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal, and live streaming around the globe at ckut.ca.
And we're glad to have you turning on your radio and listening to us, whatever way you listen to us. If it's over the radio or online, we thank you for being there. Our next story is from the Washington Post, and the headline is, "She covered human rights for the Voice of America in Azerbaijan. Now she's in jail." This is by Kelly Kasulis Chom, Washington Post, via Mike Cooper and Glenn Hauser's World of Radio IO group. Yulvia Ali took out her phone and rushed to write a letter asserting her innocence. She had not yet been charged with a crime, but she had a hunch that she would soon lose her freedom. "If you're reading this message, it means I have been arrested on trumped-up charges due to my journalistic activity," Ali, 31, who was working as a reporter for the U.S. government-funded news outlet Voice of America, wrote in January. "It is known to everyone that the Azerbaijani state has no tolerance left for independent media." Ali, who is known among her friends as Ulka, and whose legal name is Ulvia Gulieva, wrote the letter just before complying with a summons for questioning at the police headquarters in Baku, the capital of the former Soviet Republic. She knew that several other journalists had been detained immediately after they arrived there. In fact, she had made a habit of sending home-cooked meals to them and their cellmates in recent months. She prepared for the worst, feeding her 2 cats and sending photos of herself for friends to publish in case she never returned. Azerbaijani authorities hit her with a travel ban, but allowed her to walk free until May the 7th, when police raided her home and arrested her sometime after 11 p.m. Ali is being accused of currency smuggling, a charge that has been levied against other journalists in the country after police claimed they found more than 6,000 euros, or about $6,700, in her home. Azerbaijan, an authoritarian country wedged between Europe and Asia, is ranked 167 out of 180 countries in Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index, and is known for squashing activism and media seen as critical of its government. President Ilham Aliyev has waged a merciless war against the media since he took office in 2003, and in late 2023 launched a new wave of fierce repression against the country's last remaining journalists. Ali is one of at least 25 journalists currently in detention in Azerbaijan, and she was the last remaining journalist to regularly cover court hearings before her arrest. Ali was advised by her VOA colleagues to pause her work in February, partly due to the government pressure she was facing. The Azerbaijani government also appeared to be clamping down further on foreign media and revoked press accreditation for 2 VOA reporters in late February, according to Jarrett. Ali then lost her job when Trump dismantled the news service in March. That month, she told Jam News that VOA's closure would leave Azerbaijan with nothing but state propaganda. In 2021, Ali was brutally beaten by police and had her camera broken while covering a rally over the killing of a domestic violence victim in Baku, according to Gulnara Medieva, a 35-year-old women's rights activist and friend of Ali's who lives in exile. She credited Ali with exposing police violence that day with the photos she took. Ali faces up to 8 years in prison and was arrested as part of the government's broader criminal case against a German-based news organization called Meydan TV. Ali and Meydan TV have said they never worked together, and at least 9 journalists from the organization have been jailed on allegations of bringing Western funding into the country illegally, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. For now, Ali's mother is calling for the Azerbaijani government to drop its fabricated charges and for her daughter to be released immediately and unconditionally. She said she hopes to see Ali continue to report one day.
This shows one thing, that we should never take for granted the fact that journalists are always in danger, especially in some parts of the world, to bring us all the news of what's happening. And it's sad to see that this is going on right now.
In this case, you've got a VOA journalist who's been kind of left to fend for herself now.
Yep.
And who knows, how long she'll be there. 8 years right now is what they're talking about, but a lot can happen in those 8 years.
In our next story, Radio Free Asia's Uyghur service in danger following Trump's decisions. This is by Anne Bocandé, its editorial director of Reporters Without Borders via Radio Info Asia. Reporters Without Borders, the RSF, is alarmed by the announcement that the Uyghur service of Radio Free Asia, RFA, the world's only independent Uyghur language news service, will close at the end of May due to the U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order to dismantle the United States Agency for Global Media, which distributed funding to the international broadcaster. Gulchera Oja, senior journalist for RFA's Uyghur service, explained to RSF what this means for the public's access to reliable information in one of China's most restricted regions. RSF urges U.S. Congress to take action to restore RFA and honor its commitments to press freedom worldwide. Despite constant threats, RFA's Uyghur journalists have tirelessly and courageously broken stories that revealed the true extent of the atrocities committed by the Chinese regime. Without RFA's Uyghurs, the international community will lose its only window into one of China's most restricted regions, while Uyghur people will suffer the loss of their only independent outlet. RSF calls on the U.S. Congress and the international community to take action in response to this alarming situation and support the outlet's journalists so that they can continue their vital work. In early May 2025, U.S. international broadcaster Radio Free Asia announced that by the end of the month, Half of RFA's language services, including the world's only independent Uyghur language news service, will no longer produce or publish new content. As RFA can no longer rely on the U.S. Agency for Global Media to disburse the funds approved by Congress, the outlet began mass layoffs affecting half of its service. The cuts follow an executive order signed on March 14th by U.S. President Donald Trump, which terminated federal funding for the U.S. AGM, effectively paralyzing the agency that supports vital media outlets such as RFA. In China, a country that sits at the bottom of the RFS World Press Freedom Index 2025 and is the world's biggest prison for journalists, RFA is one of the few outlets documenting the violent campaign of repression against the Turkic ethnic groups in Xinjiang, Uyghur Autonomous Region, and the world's only independent news service producing content in Uyghur language. In an interview with RSF, the service senior journalist Gulchera Hoja explained how the closure of RFA's Uyghur service will impact access to information in one of the world's most closed-off regions. 20 million Uyghurs had only one reliable international news source and radio station that could convey their voice to the world, Radio Free Asia. It is a very regrettable decision by the Trump administration to erase the voice of the Uyghurs, especially when the regime's genocide continues and China has intensified its false propaganda to normalize it. The effect this will have on the Uyghurs is nothing less than giving up. It brings deep despair. RFA journalists have always been victims of China's transnational repression tactics. I have become a target of China since the day I first spoke on the radio under my own name. In November 2001, China issued a red file on me, destroying my videos, photographs, and audio files from before I came to the United States. They held my family hostage. They pressured my parents. Since then, I have not been able to return home. In February 2018, I learned that 25 of my direct relatives had been taken to the so-called re-education camps. Additionally, 50 family members of 6 journalists from our radio station had been kidnapped. We did not bow to these threats and continued reporting. For 24 years, our people have been hearing that Radio Free Asia is the voice of the drowned, the voice of the free press. This was also our promise to our people. It was our mission to broadcast their voice to the world. We will not abandon our mission to be their voices, and we can also make our reporting heard through social media. I express my deep respect to my fearless journalist friends who are fighting for justice against oppressors. Being a voice for the voiceless requires a price, and standing up for justice against oppressors requires courage. We are proud to be journalists. Once again, another example of how tough conditions can be and how these voices are needed, especially when you think about it's the only service that actually served Uyghur language.
Yeah, it is an autonomous region of China, but China does not want to recognize these people. They don't want them to have their language. They don't want them to get news. They don't want them, period.
Yep.
As you said, this was the one voice that they could tune to on the radio. Now it's not there. You kind of wonder what's going to happen to them. Nobody will be reporting on it because it's very hard to cover the area being within the borders of China.
So we have upcoming amateur radio DXPEDITIONS, special events, and contests coming up.
Yeah, this week, if you're into trying to pick up stations that are out on DXPEDITIONS, there are a lot of things that are going to be coming up. So we thought we'd highlight some of them for you today. Many of these places you might have to look up on a map. You may not have ever heard of them before, but ham radio operators managed to get to these places and put their stations on the air for hams and listeners to try to tune into. So we'll start off with the country of ESWATINI in Africa. 3 Delta Alpha 0. Morten, who is call sign LA9GY, will be operating using the call 3 Delta Alpha 0GY between May 22nd and June the 3rd on HF, mainly using CW, but he'll also be doing some single sideband work.
In the 5 Romeo area, Madagascar, Giampi, IK1TTD will be operating as 5 Romeo 8 Tango Delta from May 27th until June the 11th.
Staying in Africa, prefix 7 Papa, which is Lesotho. Mark, KW4XJ, and Arena, K04PZT, are operating call sign 7 Papa 8 Alpha Bravo and 7 Papa 8 November Bravo until mid-2025, so probably another month or so.
There's Delta 4 prefix, Cape Verde, Warren, KN6ZZI, and Harold, DF2WO, are operating from Punta Achada, Paria, Bexo, Cape Verde during the month of May. Harold will focus on CW and FT4, while Warren will operate single sideband and FT8.
And here's a country. Bob, Zulu Lima 1 Romeo Sierra, is operating Echo 6 Romeo Sierra from Makufu until June the 2nd. The focus will be on 6 meters and perhaps 10 meters if the 6 meter band is dead. So that's a limited operation, just using 1 or 2 bands. So that one might be a tricky one.
Then we have the prefix FO, French Polynesia, Didier. F6BCW will be active as Tango X-Ray 5 uniform from Tikeho between May 26th and June the 8th. The activity will be from 40 to 6 meters using CW and SSB.
One of the prefixes within Japan, JD1, which is Minami Torishima. Take, Juliet Gulf 8, November Quebec Juliet, is once again active using slant Juliet Delta 1 call until mid-June. He'll be operating during his spare time using CW and also some FT8 transmissions.
There's a special event in Belgium, Oscar Tango 25 Echo Papa India Charlie. The Antwerp Port Contest Club again activates a special event call sign. This call is active for 1 month from May the 10th until June the 9th. The latter is also the day of the most prominent Karate Coers cycling competition is held at the Antwerp Port Epic.
And we have from the Faroe Islands, Oscar Yankee /4 X-Ray 6 Tango Tango. The operator says, I'm thrilled to announce that starting this Tuesday, May 20th, so this is already underway, I'll be back on the air from what I call the last paradise on Earth, the majestic Faroe Islands. This marks my second visit, and I'll be operating SSB on all bands. I look forward to hearing you on the air and making great contacts once again from this breathtaking location. So this is from Amir. 4 X-Ray is an Israeli call sign, so he's stationed out on Faroes Island.
And last, there's a station that's been quite active recently, and I've actually tried to make a contact yesterday, and it was not successful. Sierra 01 Whiskey Sierra in the Western Sahara. This is Western Sahara Radio Club that's active. Many bands and mobs, I've seen them in CW, SSB, and also FT8. And with that, we're out of time.
We certainly are. It goes by quickly. We thank you for staying with us for 30 minutes. You can get to us by email, radioreport@yahoo.com, for any questions or comments you have. Our show is live streamed and archived at ckut.ca. Our Facebook group is International Radio Report. We have 3 new members this week. We're at 979. We welcome Robert Levin, Ron Pizzinato, and Harvey Gatto. Harvey is in Jersey City, New Jersey. So welcome to all 3 of you. And if you want to listen to our show at your own convenience, whenever it's good for you, it's good for us. Check us on YouTube, youtube.com/@IRR, and you can subscribe to our channel there. Have a great week, everybody. We will talk to you again next week here on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.